My name is MacKenzie Hamilton, and I am a junior at Smith College in Northampton. I serve as the Northeast Outreach Coordinator on the Management Committee of STAND, which is the student-led division of the Genocide Intervention Network and Save Darfur Coalition. I first testified before this committee for this bill in June 2009 and will continue returning until this is hopefully passed. Scholarship and activism go hand in hand. An end to genocide will not be achieved without the education of future generations. Genocide and mass atrocities of past and present, their effects on post-conflict areas, and their relevance to international law need to be taught. In an increasingly global world, it is important that students learn both the internal and external causes of genocide and the consequences that it has on the world as a whole. Students need to learn beyond the Holocaust. They need to learn about the genocides in the Americas, Armenia, Ukraine, Cambodia, Rwanda, Darfur, that it has happened to people of every race and creed, and that it has been allowed to perpetuate into the 21st century. They need to know that their voices are critical to ending the cycle of violence that has been going on for so long. This empowerment is invaluable to the democratic system on which we pride ourselves. The preservation of memory is something we owe to the survivors of Rwanda and Cambodia and the relatives of survivors of Armenia and the Holocaust. Education both preserves the memories of victims and offers a chance for the prevention of future genocides. Prevention is important for many reasons, including saving billions of tax dollars. The 2008 Genocide Prevention Task Force report, which Eric cited, was chaired by Madeleine Albright and William Cohen and outlined recommendations for policymakers to end and prevent genocide and mass atrocities. I quote, "The international community is called on to absorb and assist displaced people, provide relief efforts, and bear high economic costs. The longer we wait to act, the more expensive the price tag. In Bosnia, the U.S. has invested nearly $15 billion to support peacekeeping forces in the years since we belatedly intervened to stop mass atrocities." End quote. Finally, I'm going to suggest two slight changes to the bill's language. First, a change of may to shall in the initial clause, as it is imperative that students learn beyond one genocide, that usually being the Holocaust. Also, because it is historically incorrect, I suggest you change the genocide of Rwandan Tutsis to simply the genocide of Rwandans. Both Hutu and Tutsi were killed during the genocide, and we should acknowledge the thousands of moderate Hutu who were also killed, and that there were atrocities committed by both sides. The public in Massachusetts is overwhelmingly in support of anti-genocide legislation. Across the state, there are over 30 student-run STAND chapters, including chapters at BC, Northeastern University, Clark University, UMass Amherst, Smith College, Tufts, and a plethora of high school chapters. Today, representatives from Western, Central, and Eastern Massachusetts have come together once again to raise our voices for genocide education. We hope that you will consider us, our communities, and the global community when discussing this bill. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions about STAND as an organization, about Massachusetts activism, anything you find relevant.
If I could ask, as students,
I do, I know.
as well, and is that a reference to language?
Yes.
And if that may be different, but if you have a particular language beyond just a name shall, they would like to consider a redraft to the possible hardship. Any questions?
I just have one small question. Are you aware of any states that have adopted legislation such as this?
Yes, Rhode Island just passed one this week, actually. Connecticut just passed one very recently. There are a couple of others. There's one in the Midwest, and it's slipping my mind. But there are a couple, and then specific school districts have as a whole, but for states as a whole, it's difficult to come across that information.
Do you know whether these Rhode Island and Connecticut bills are similar or identical? We can.
I believe they're similar. I don't know the exact language of those bills.
I do, thank you, Madam Chair. I do actually have a question. It's a little bit of a comment, a little bit of a question, and probably something that we can talk about further. But I wanted to ask about I do think that it's critical we talk about genocide, and the speaker before mentioned not doing it as a historical footnote when we talk about it. One of the things is not the exact definition of genocide, but that we don't always tie into it, is our own history of American slavery. And I would love to figure out how that is taught a little bit more in depth in our history, and not just a historical footnote like the Holocaust, because I think that'll also help our healing here in the United States and our cities and towns, but also give us a chance to be a leader in that global message as well. So if that's something that is being worked on and thought about, I would love to hear more about that.
Absolutely, and I agree that that's extremely important. I took a class on Central African history this year, and the history of slave trade in that region as it relates to the world as a whole, and immigration to the United States is extremely important to go through. And as we know, Africa is not taught, and African history is not taught very much in the public school systems.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And I did not, I'm sorry, that Representative Freeman was on. Next up, we have Robin, is it Galavinian?